All right, prop the mic. We're live. It's PTM here for the NFL, the final two of three games for this NFL season, conference championship weekend. Super excited. Dave's Chiefs are here once again. So it'll be fun to talk about that. As always, today's podcast is presented by Props.Cash. We 100% could not do what we do without Props.Cash. So if you think you're ready to level up your prop betting game, use code PTM at sign up to get 25% off your first month. How you feeling, Dave? How's the confidence level going into this weekend? How are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. I think I was nervous about the Chiefs beating the Bills, so they snuck by the Bills, and I think they could do the same with the Ravens. Although the Ravens are just a pretty dominant team, but experience counts. So we'll see how that goes. And the NFC side, I think it'll be fun. I think obviously the 49ers are the better team, but I do think the Lions have a little bit more positive momentum. But we'll see how the Lions can hang in an away game on the playoffs. So very excited for the weekend. I think it's gonna be fun.
Yes, can't wait. Let's get cracking.
All right, let's get to it. First game, we got the Chiefs at the Ravens. Ravens are -3.5 at home. Total's 44.5. I do have to say, getting 3.5 points for the Chiefs, not putting my fandom aside, is always a nice spot to be in, because when they do lose, they tend to lose off of like a game-winning field goal. So getting that positive hook, I think is a nice place to bet. But that line has moved from, I think, 3 to 3.5. So there's definitely a lot of movement towards the Ravens. So
I think you're seeing that sharp money come in. I think the public is having trouble laying off the Chiefs with the points, and you're seeing a lot of sharp money come in on the Ravens is what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. But this could be one of those games. We haven't put a pick like this, but in the past, we've definitely kind of put some picks where you middle the game. I'm going to try to put one of those together and maybe put it out on X, but where you take like the Ravens, plus 10 points and the Chiefs plus 10 points. You alt those two together in a parlay, maybe add one more leg and you get something nice. Because I think this will be a 7-point game either way. What do you think?
This game, yes.
Okay.
The other game, I'm not sure.
All right, so let's talk about the quarterbacks first. We got Mahomes and Lamar. Let's start with Lamar. We got him up on the screen from the start. What are you thinking? 210 passing yards is his line for this week. You got anything on him?
I do. So I'm taking the under on Lamar's passing yards here. So I ran some analysis on how he produces when he sees a lot of pressure, because KC's defense pressures the quarterback a lot in terms of seen 6 or more quarterback pressures. His passing yards on the season go from averaging 229 down to 200, and his quarterback rating plummets from 102 to 91. Now, if he sees 7+ QB pressures in the game, his yards go even further down to he's averaging 168 yards per game when he sees 7 or more pressures in one game. His quarterback rating goes down to an 83.3. Kansas City, like I mentioned, averages the most pressures per game at 9.6 this season.
Wow.
Since week 10, they've bumped that up to 10.1 quarterback pressures per game. Houston pressured him 7 times last week, and he threw 152 yards. So I think this sets up very, very nicely for I'll give out, but I'm curious your feedback on fading Lamar's passing yards here.
Yeah, you cut out there, but I think you were saying under 210 and a half passing yards. And I think it's going to be close. I think it'll be. I think he'll be throwing the ball quite a bit. But I do think the one area that that the Bills had a lot of success in was Josh Allen rushing. He really kind of got wherever he wanted to get when he was running the ball. And I think Lamar Jackson is a better rushing quarterback, obviously, than Josh Allen. So I think he'll be running the ball quite a bit on this added pressure, which is going to take pass attempts away. So I think it's a good plan. Also, if you think Baltimore is going to be winning most of the game, then they're going to be leaning heavy on the run as well to kill the clock, keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. So between game script and what we saw last week, I think the under is where I would go as well versus going over.
All right, sounds good. I like that, and this correlates nicely to a rushing over here at 64.5 rush yards. So I looked then at how his rushing relates to quarterback pressures, and we'll just look over the last 5 weeks. So as I mentioned, Houston with 7 pressures last week held him to 152 passing yards, but he ran for 100 yards. Okay. Now, the week before, the week that he played prior was against Miami. Miami only pressured him 2 times. How many rushing yards did he have? 35. The week before, San Francisco, only 3 pressures all game. How many yards did he run for? 45. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Jacksonville, the week before that, pressures went up to 10, and he ran for 97 yards. Week before that, 6 pressures against from the Rams, ran for 70 yards. So I think these are highly correlated here, obviously. So I like the under on his passing yards, over on his rushing yards. You can look quickly if you scroll down and look at quarterback rushing against Kansas City over the last 3 games. Looks like my feed's a little choppy here, huh?
A little bit, yeah, but we're okay.
We're good. All right.
Yeah. Tua with 25. Josh Allen's not showing up here, but I think he had a big game. Easton Stick with 77 and Jake Browning with 32. So those aren't even rushing quarterbacks. Most of those guys that.
Yeah, I mean, look at the lines that they had.
Yeah.
So I think, and this is Lamar. So I think the way KC's defense plays, it's going to force him into a lot of runs. So I think overrushing is good. I'm having trouble. I'd love to select you saw it last week. They were able to run. James Cook, though they adjusted in the second half, I think. In the first half, they were able to, he was really getting going on the ground against KC. So I think that's one place you can attack them. But I just don't know. Between Dalvin Cook and Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, I don't know where to target, but Lamar seems the surest thing. So we're going to go with Lamar.
I think that's a great play. I think the other way you can attack that, if you like both of those plays that Tom just gave out, but you're concerned about, the lines being sharp, especially since these have been out for 4 days, you could take his rushing yards down a bit, and you can push his passing yards up a bit and maybe go under 225 and over 50 rushing yards, something like that. Put them together in a parlay. Again, highly correlated. You give yourself a little bit more buffer, and you can cash a nice, probably plus money parlay between those two. So that's another way to attack
Good
this
strategy.
I think his rushing attempts, 10.5 rushing attempts, is also a good way to attack this. It seems maybe 1 too high. I would have loved it at 9.5, but I think Lamar is going to be rushing the ball quite a bit. So I think 10.5 rush attempts is another way. Anybody else on the Ravens side?
On the Ravens side, no. That's kind of where I finished up there. I felt pretty strong about these 2 plays, and also with the receivers in flux. There's lines out on Mark Andrews, but is he really going to be a big part of the offense? Tight ends against KC is actually it was like a fade target. But you see, obviously, his line's depressed because because he's coming off injury here. So I don't know. Were you on any other Baltimore plays?
He's coming off injury. Likely is also playing really well. So I can't imagine that they're just going to revert to where they were, the snap share that they had back in November. I think they're going to ease him back in. I think Likely's going to still get some snaps. So I personally would lay off Andrews because I think there's just too many question marks there. But I think indirectly you're getting value on some of the Baltimore receivers because Andrews is back, and I think he may not have as big of an impact on a guy like Zay Flowers. So Flowers, this line is saying 44.5. If you shop it around, you can actually get Zay Flowers as low as 41.5 receiving yards on DK. If you look, he had 41 last week, and he had a pretty off game, pretty uninvolved game. I think he'll be more involved in the offense this week. He's got a 71% hit rate on the season, and he has an 80% hit rate when he gets 3+ targets. I believe he had 4 targets last week. So I think you're getting a lot of value here. Prior to last week, he had a 72-yard week and 106 week. This is the guy. This is his primary target. He's not going to be throwing the ball a ton per, the start of this pod, but I think 41.5 receiving yards is too low. So I would go Zay Flowers over 41.5.
Nice. Yeah. Play we were on last week. Almost got there last week. I think this is a good spot, and Lamar will be going to him.
All right. Let's just talk about the Chiefs a little bit. I think Pacheco, even though the Ravens D rush D is pretty solid, right? They're giving up here we go, 109 rushing yards per game. Not a lot of rushing attempts. There's 6 lowest rushing attempts, but that is largely because they're in the lead in most of these games. But if we just go down to comps and we look at running backs against the Ravens, Najee had 112, A-Chain had 107, and Christian McCaffrey had 103. I think Pacheco falls right in the mix of those guys. Not quite as good as McCaffrey, but certainly Najee and A-Chain. I think he's maybe north of them. 65.5 rushing yards. I think you can get it as low as 63.5. I'm projecting him closer to 70 in this game. You can see the last 3 weeks, 130, 89, 97. He also has some value on the rush attempts at 13.5, which you pay a little juice for, or you can go up to 14.5. Again, I think the Chiefs are finding a lot of success keeping him heavily involved in the offense. When they stop feeding him, Mahomes starts making mistakes. His receivers are not that strong. So I think if they start throwing on first down instead of running on first down, that's usually where the Chiefs end up in a 3-and-out situation. So I see them continuing to feed the ball. He is banged up a little bit. I think he's got a toe thing or a hamstring thing. I think they're sitting him out in practice right now, but I'm pretty sure he'll be ready to go. So as long as he's not out, I'd go Pacheco over rushing yards. What do you think?
What do I think? I think if you think KC's gonna win this game, then that's great. And I think he's become such a featured part of the offense and really taken a step forward here that I think that's a pretty good number for him. Look at that, 4 of the last 5, just blowing it out of the water. So. Yeah,
and they haven't, last week they weren't necessarily winning the entire game. It was a back and forth game.
Yeah.
So as long as this one doesn't become a blowout, as long as it's a 7-point game or less, I think the Chiefs are going to still commit to running the ball. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is also really interesting. He's got a rushing yard line of 7.5 rushing yards. He only had 2 attempts last week, but I think he had 31 rushing yards and 21 the week before, if I had that correct. So he's also very tempting to take at a 7.5, but I can't put my money behind a guy who's only getting 2 carries. So, but if you find any more news about Pacheco and potentially getting less load because of an injury, then Edwards-Helaire could be an amazing value at 7.5 rushing yards.
Sneaky. Yeah, I think those look like they just dropped even earlier today. I didn't see anything out on him, but seeing it now, I know those are hard to resist for you. Those lines sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. We do have an alt builder that we put out on X, I think 4 or 5 days ago. For this, we'll cover that at the end of the pod as well, and we got one for the NFC side. Anything else you want to add for this game?
Let's talk about Travis Kelce, his other big offensive weapon next to Pacheco here. So Baltimore has been one of the best teams to target tight ends against, especially over the second half of the season. His line 62.5 receiving yards, -110 on FanDuel. So it looks like they've kind of, I don't know, I felt this way. I don't know about you as a Chiefs fan, that they, they got their first touchdown, right? In, I don't know, what was it, 8 games or so last week? Maybe they've rekindled the, Baltimore. I mean, on a line of 57.5, pretty comparable line. George Kittle put up 126 receiving yards against this Baltimore team. So it's actually come down to 61.5. I love it. Look at Kittle there. You got to go ahead.
Yeah, you got Njoku with 58, Trey McBride at 95. So yeah, definitely seems like probably one of the weaker spots for the Baltimore defense is the tight end position. So I like that. I didn't notice that. I was definitely looking at his receptions, but the receiving yards look really good too.
Yeah, the receptions I think at 5.5, right? Yeah, it seemed a little for me. That's why I ended up going to the receiving yards here, because I felt like, especially with what Kittle was able to do, I felt like he could probably break 1 or 2 off. So I like that. And then should we talk about Mahomes?
Of course, it wouldn't be a Chiefs game if we didn't talk about Mahomes. What do you like for Patrick?
So I see on we did have a question about from Paul Miranda on YouTube. Thank you for your question here. He had any thoughts on Mahomes over 25 rushing yards? He seems to turn it on in the playoffs. This is something Dave and I have given a lot of thought to. We've bet on Mahomes rushing props for years now and been cashing on them. The line is up from where it used to be quite a bit. So I like his rushing yards. It's where I started looking. If you look at playoff games, he had he had 41 against Miami, but those weather conditions there, and against Buffalo only 19. So where I ended up on Mahomes was his longest rush. So it's 11.5 on DK, 11.5 -120 on DK. He's gone over in 5 of his last 8 playoff games, and in one of those misses actually had 11, so he got hooked. If you look at the last 2, 24, 28, 26 in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Then he had a little down. He had 5 against Cincinnati last year, 5 against Jacksonville, the 11 against Cincinnati again. So Cincinnati was able to hold him in check rushing, but then 34 against Buffalo, 23 against Pittsburgh. So he's good, right? You're in agreement with me?
Yeah, I like that better. Where he'll get this is on a like a third down, a broken down play. He'll scramble. He'll pick this up. The other thing that I think is interesting, my observation from the last 2 weeks, come the playoff times, Mahomes, instead of running the ball out, after picking up 8-9 yards, he'll lower his shoulder and he'll go for the extra 4 or 5 yards. Just knowing, the importance of this time of the year. So I think that's especially critical for a longest rush, because a lot of times you'll lose these, on a 3rd and 7, he'll pick up the 8 yards that he needs and then step out of bounds,
slide or step out,
slide or whatever. I think here he's going to put his shoulder down. He's going to get 14 or 15 yards. So I think this is a really good play. This is always fun too, because even if he's got 0 rushing yards going into the 4th quarter, he could still pick this up on one broken down play. So love
you're
this
alive
one
to the end on these ones. Yeah, these are good
for sure. As long as they don't have like a 20-point lead, you're good. So excellent. I love that play. Good one.
Nice.
So that would be your advice, right? To the question on YouTube, go with the longest rush perhaps instead of the total rushing yards, right?
I prefer that. Yeah. I mean, even like what was it? One of these games, I think he got his longest rush would have cleared. I think I forget what it was, but he ended up, because of, whether he got tackled for a loss or a couple kneel downs, whatever it was, he ended up going under the rush yards, but his longest rush was more than what he ended up with, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah, over the last 10 games, he's got a 50% hit rate on the total rushing yards, and on the longest rush, it's up to 61%. So, I think that kind of shows you the difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the Chiefs Ravens?
That's it.
All right, let's go to the night game. Lions at the 49ers. 49ers are -7.5 at home. Total is 51.5. Let's start with the quarterbacks again on this one. Who do you like? Who do you want to start with?
I don't have a whole lot. Let's start with Purdy. I don't have a whole lot for this. I mean, we've been targeting quarterbacks against Detroit all season long. I don't see a reason to stop now. His passing yards, you can get it for 274, I think, at least you were earlier. So that line looks like, is it still available at 274?
You can get it for 274
FanDuel,
on FanDuel and 279 on DraftKings.
Yeah. So 6 straight quarterbacks have cleared their line. I think 8 of the last 10. Against this Detroit defense. So I think it seems it's a little bit high for Purdy. I mean, if you look at his hit rates on the season, he doesn't get there. The hit rates aren't incredible, but the matchup is what we're looking at here. Still, if we knew Debo was playing, I'd like even more, but then the number would probably be a little bit higher. That would be baked into there. So I don't know. Were you on Purdy here?
I'm going under. We see this differently. I'm going under 279.5. I just think yes, Detroit is atrocious. From a pass defense standpoint, I think they have the potential to give up big yards. But the biggest difference is, San Fran's got McCaffrey, and I think McCaffrey is just going to get fed the ball quite a bit, even with Detroit's run defense. I think they're just going to feed the ball. If you believe the spread, which is 7.5 points, the 49ers are going to be up big in this game, and 7 to 10 points most likely at various points of the game, which is going to lead to more rushing. No Debo, as far as I know. I don't think Debo is available. Maybe there's still some question of him returning, but I certainly think that weakens the pass game there as well. So I think also another way to approach this is to kind of middle it. I think he's good for 225. I think he's not going on over 300. I think I would maybe even think about putting a play somewhere between those two and see if you can get a nice same game parlay if you're confused as to which direction to go.
Interesting. All right.
All right. Anything else on the San Francisco side?
On the San Francisco side, yes. I really like Kittle here, over 61.5 receiving yards. He's cleared this in 8 of his last 11 overall, averaging 80 yards. This in 6 straight at home, and 7 of 8 home games this season. The only miss was against Arizona, which he only had 1 target in that game. So I think Kittle's awesome here. After Baltimore, we spoke about the tight end targets against Baltimore, and that was why I was behind Kelsey. Detroit's been one of the best teams to target tight ends against in the second half of the season. If you look at Cade Otton last week, he had 65 yards on 5 receptions with 8 targets. He was actually tied with Chris Godwin for second in targets on the team after Mike Evans. On the season, though, Cade Otton only averaged 3 receptions and 4 targets. So he saw a big increase against Detroit with 5 receptions and 8 targets for 65 yards. So I think you'll see the same thing from Kittle here. I love his over, obviously correlated to my feeling that Purdy will go over. But Kittle can go over and Purdy could still go under Dave's pick there. So. No,
I mean the last 4 weeks, I think Kittle went over. Two of them, had 126 receiving yards, and I think Purdy went under that line still. So yeah, I think he's looking good, and I think some of these guys who are beat up, injured players that kind of try to put it in like a second gear, are like amping it up for the playoffs, just like I mentioned with Mahomes. So I think he's the kind of guy who's got all the talent in the world if he's healthy, and I think this is a moment for him to go out and perform. He's probably doesn't have a whole lot of years left in the career, given all the injury history. So I could see Kittle going out and having a big game. So I like that one.
Nice. Thank you.
Anybody else on the San Francisco side?
No.
All right, let's move over to the Lions. You like anything for Goff?
I do. I'm feeling his pass attempts here. I know it's high at 35. Playing from behind, like that game against Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, he averages 29.5 pass attempts per game. He had 35 against San Francisco. Kyler Murray, 39. Jalen Hurts, 45. Baker, 45. Kirk Cousins, 45. Matt Stafford, 55. So, I mean, a quarterback who leans so heavily on the or in a team that leans so heavily on the on passing, I just think playing from behind, this is a nice setup here for Goff to, I think get into the 40s in pass attempts.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, again, if you truly believe that they're going to be playing from behind, they're not going to be able to lean on the run defense if they fall down by 10 points. I personally think the game could be closer. I see a lot of people, leaning more towards the San Francisco to kind of blow them out. And maybe that is the case. San Fran looked off against Green Bay to start, but they were a little sleepy coming off of a bye week, so they could come out strong. And if they do, the Lions are going to be throwing the ball a ton to try to catch up. So
I see this game going one. I don't love the spread in this game. I think what either happens is San Francisco blows them out and it's not like super competitive, or I actually think Detroit could win this outright. I love a little bit on the Detroit money line here. I think that's one of the ways this game plays out.
I hope so. I hope for those Detroit fans. I hope they get one more win and then lose to the Chiefs. All right. Anybody else on the Lions that you like?
Yeah, I got two more plays here. I love this spot for Jahmyr Gibbs. So I love his receiving yards. San Francisco has allowed the 5th most targets and 6th most receptions to running backs on the season. Now I know this. We spoke about this last week, and I was on Aaron Jones receiving yards last week. He didn't get there, but he was targeted 6 times in that game. Only managed 8 yards. He did all his damage on the ground. But when Gibbs has been targeted, I think he'll get there. And we spoke about this last week. Just look at running backs against San Francisco just since the beginning of December. Brian Robinson, 32 receiving yards on a line of 12.5. Gus Edwards, 39 on a line of 8.5. Justice Hill, 31 on a line of 10.5. Yeah, I mean, Kenneth Walker, 33. The line was 8.5. Kenneth Gainwell, 42. The line was 7.5. So just blowing their receiving yards away. So I think it's promising that Jones, did get those 6 targets last week, even though he didn't manage to get there in the receiving yards. So I think this sets up. This is his game. Goff's going to be going to him. I like this as it correlates to my Goff over pass attempts. So Jahmyr Gibbs over 22.5 receiving yards, -110 on FanDuel. What do you think?
I like that. Although I went a different angle, same exact analysis, but I went with David Montgomery, who's obviously not the receiving running back of the two. But if you look last 2 weeks, he had 11 receiving yards and 14 receiving yards. This says 10.5 receiving yards, but actually, if you look down and you shop around, you can get this for 5.5 receiving.
Is that legit?
That is legit on FanDuel. 5.5 receiving yards for -115. So You know what I thought was interesting is if you look at the receptions, you know, his receiving line, his receptions line is 1.5 receptions plus 145, but you know, the receiving yards is only 5.5 on FanDuel. So I think that's pretty good value. He's got a 56% hit rate overall in the season, getting to 6 yards, 69%, 9 of 13 when he has 1 catch. So this is a discounted way of basically playing Montgomery to get 1 catch. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is I didn't notice that. I focused on Gibbs because he's, that's how he factors into, Detroit's offense. So that's where I went. But if you can get that at 5.5, that's a steal, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to double check that it's still available while you're giving out the next pick. So go ahead.
All right, so this is also just very similar, but I also like Jahmyr Gibbs rush plus receiving yards. It's 73.5 minus 1. Three rush plus receiving yards, and one of those misses. So almost 8 of his last 10 games, he's cleared this in. And I don't know if it's how legit it is. I did see a 72. I might have seen a 72.5 out there. So, but if he gets 4+ targets, which I mentioned on the receiving yard thing, he's cleared this in 7 of his last 9. With 5 targets, which I think he gets to. He's 5 for 6 this season, 5 of his last 6 this season with 5+ targets, with the lone miss being that one game where he had 73 and the line 73.5. Aaron Jones had 116 rush plus receiving yards last week in a loss to San Francisco. So. And I'm getting a note here from F. Mason Plumley on X that the line is not available on FanDuel anymore for David Montgomery.
No, I'm looking at it right now. 5.5 receiving yards minus 115. So
all right, maybe it depends on the state you're in.
Maybe
we're seeing lots of hearts on X right now. I guess people are. I don't know if they're behind the Jahmyr Gibbs. I have a feeling they're behind the Montgomery, but not sure.
I'm a little concerned that we might that line might disappear by the time we get off, because I found it right before we jumped on and I didn't even place the bet myself yet. So just slow down, everybody. Don't push that up to 7.5 on me. All right. So all right, we're having a little technical difficulty on Tom's side. It's cutting in and out. So we just, for everybody's benefit, we'll repost this pod as well. After we're done live streaming as well, and that'll fix any of the issues that you see.
Yeah, this spotty Los Angeles internet. Not sure what's going on here, but
feel free to hit the tip jar on X so that Tom can upgrade to proper internet speed. All right. Anything else in this game?
Yeah, a couple question just popped up on X. Gibbs or Montgomery anytime touchdown. Before you weigh in, I was actually gonna ask you how you felt about a Montgomery anytime touchdown. I kind of am just feeling it in this spot, even though I'm on the Gibbs. I feel like it's a Gibbs like offensive production in terms of like racking up the yards in this game, but I feel like once they get down, in the red zone there, goal line, something, it's going to go right to David Montgomery, I'm feeling. So, yeah, I like the Montgomery anytime touchdown. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, in the red zone, Montgomery seems to really excel. I don't know, the share seems to be changing a little bit between the two of them, but I do think this seems to be a Montgomery touchdown game. I don't. The only issue is it kind of is less about Montgomery and more about, can a receiver get tackled within the 5-yard line? You know what I mean? Like, or can Gibbs or Montgomery run and get tackled within the 5-yard line? So I don't see Montgomery breaking off for like a 30-yard run and scoring in this game. It's going to more come down to a little bit of luck. Can they get inside that last 5 yards and then he punches one in? So. Yeah. But if they do, he's the guy I believe who's going to get the carry. So I think that's nice. I think obviously McCaffrey anytime touchdown will probably be a nice play, but That, as always, is minus 300. So you'll have to find something to put that with.
Yeah. All right. We got one other question just from this is from Paul Miranda again on YouTube. We need your Chiefs expertise here, Dave. Do you like Noah Gray receiving yards around the 10.5 to 11.5 range? He said Kelsey is getting all the attention, and Gray fake blocks and rolls out in the area of 10 to 15 yards a couple times a game. I see you nodding your head over there in agreement.
I spend every time there's a Chiefs game, I spend about 20 minutes looking at Noah Gray. Not only is he a Chiefs guy, but he's also a Duke guy. And I think he's great. I think he's really efficient at catching the ball. I think but his targets are low. So it's always a really good value to play. I was looking at both of his, total receiving yards and also his longest reception. I think you can get the longest reception if you have it there, Tom. I think you can get it for 8.5 versus
8.5 minus 105 on DK, 7.5 on BetMGM. It says so.
Yeah. So my experience with him is, if he's going to clear the 10.5, he's probably going to get it on like a 9 or 10 yard pass. So, and he could get like a 9-yard pass and then not get any more activities. So I like the value of kind of taking him down to a longest reception and go for that 8.5.
All right. Good strategy. Thank you for the question. That's a good one. One of Dave's guys right there.
Just don't get mad at me if he catches 2 6-yard passes. All right.
Nice. So I think that does it, right?
No, don't you end the show. We got a couple alt builders to just review real quick. All right.
Excited here.
All right. It's all right. Here we go. I even put these in a PowerPoint presentation, which is like next level stuff for this show. All right. So can you see that, Tom?
Yes, I see it.
Be able to see it. Okay. All right. So we posted these up on I gave away the new one. We posted these up on X earlier this week, but in case you didn't see them, these are a couple different options for builders. We've had tremendous success with builders on the NBA side, and we've actually done really well on the NFL side as well. So here's the first one on the AFC game, the Chiefs-Ravens. You can do Kelsey 4 receptions, Lamar Jackson 25 rushing yards, Mahomes 200 passing yards, and Zay Flowers 3 receptions.
We're not seeing I'm not seeing that one. I'm seeing the Lamar. Yeah.
All right. How about now?
Yeah.
Good?
We go.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'll do it again. So, and I'll give you the hit rate. So Kelsey 4 receptions is 15 for 17 on the season. Lamar 25 rushing yards. That's the easiest leg here. 16 for 17. Mahomes 200 passing yards. 16 for 18. And Zay Flowers 3 receptions, 15 for 17. So all 88% plus hit rates on the season. You put that together, you get plus 103. I think this has actually come down a little bit to like maybe minus 105, minus 107 now. I also noticed FanDuel pulled Lamar Jackson 25 rushing yards. So you might have to go over to DK and actually shop over there and see if they offer this. Or if not, you might need to find another leg for that Lamar one. So it just shows you the value of kind of locking these things early in the week. Okay.
Yeah.
NFC side, we got Goff 200 passing yards, 18 for 19 on the season. So he only missed that one game. Purdy, same thing, 200 passing yards, missed that in only one game this season. McCaffrey, 50 rushing yards, 15 for 17. And St. Brown, 50 receiving yards, 16 for 18, minus 113. When I place this, I think it's down to minus 118. Still good value. Lock that one in. Okay. So those two are out on X. Nice. You got the props.cash charts to accompany those. And then we added one more for today. We got every quarterback to get 1 passing touchdown. Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Purdy, Goff. Put those 4 together, you get minus 131. We gave you lots of other options. If you want to alt something else down, throw it in here. You'll get it to plus 100. But I think that was a nice base, and I think it's a fun thing for 7 hours. Yeah, 7 hours of the day. You'll just be rooting for one thing to happen for 4 different guys. I think it's kind of fun. So give that a shot as well.
Yeah, great way to watch the games on Sunday. I love these. Done these before, and these are super fun. So nice putting that out there, and good value on it too. So well done. That gets us through the NFL Conference Championship weekend. We'll get a couple of our favorite picks up on X. Really appreciate all the questions from everybody on X and YouTube, and seeing as though I had the spotty internet connection today, not unusual here. We will reprocess this and get it up on X again. But everyone enjoy the games. Good work today, Dave, and let's all make some money.
Go Chiefs.